Hello again. So today I want to talk about the movies that I watched this month in February. I want this to be a bit more casual, but in my previous video I had not necessarily a script, but I had talking points. I'll give a brief synopsis of each movie, the director, what year it was made, where I watched it. But I just want to kind of go off the cuff with my thoughts on it, because there are some good ones, there's more bad ones, so I just want it to be honest. But yeah, so I watched 10 movies this month. That feels kind of low for me, honestly. Just this month was really insane with work, and the weather got really bad, so I didn't really feel like watching new stuff, but I did watch a couple of new films, new to me, and I even took a recommendation from a dear friend, and that'll be a little bit lower on the list, because I think I kind of went in order from at the beginning of the month to the end. So enough with the details, let's just start talking about it. So the first movie I watched this month was The Crazies, that released in 2010. This version was directed by Breck Eisner. And I watched it on Prime Video. This movie is about a sheriff and his deputy. They discover a deadly toxin in the water supply of their small town that's turning everyone into bloodthirsty lunatics. They gotta stick together to keep their loved ones safe and try to escape the town before it's too late. This movie, I enjoyed watching it, and it had a lot of gory scenes that I really enjoyed. But the overall plot was pretty predictable. I haven't seen the original by George Romero. I feel like they could have gone in a different direction for the style of the main characters, the sheriff and the deputy. It was just such a tough guy movie, and I don't know, I'm not a tough guy, so I guess I can't relate. The only saving grace for this movie was the handful of scenes that were really intense, really good gore. The rest was just, I don't know, forgettable. I gave this movie a 2 out of 5. The ending was also not super great, so yeah. The next movie I watched this month is actually my highest rated movie on the list, so there's that. I'm probably also going to butcher how to pronounce everything, but it's a South Korean film called Gongjium Haunted Asylum. It's directed by Jung Bum-shik. I watched it on Prime Video. This movie follows 7 members of a live streaming supernatural web series that go and explore a famous haunted asylum where they're trying to get their show more views. Little do they know, the legends are true and they will end up fighting to escape with their lives. This was such a good example of using the different styles that you can have with hand cam movies. Already you know that they're going to be tech savvy because they do live streaming and it's more modern. Each of the characters have GoPros attached to them, really insanely attached to them. They're on body straps, and there's a scene where one of them is tightening the harness behind them so they can't take it off if they get too scared. And I know that there are a lot of haunted asylum horror movies out there that exist, but this one, I don't know, it just stands out on its own. All the characters felt really authentic. Their chemistry together was really well done. The dialogue was really good too. There's a little bit of not necessarily a twist, but there's some kind of dynamic that happens later in the movie that I really wasn't expecting to happen. And for that kind of plot point to happen in a hand cam style movie, kind of shows that the writing and the direction was really unique, really well done. The only reason why I did not give this movie a full 5 stars, I gave it a 4.5 stars. The only reason why I didn't give it a full 5 is because I really wanted to see more of the ghosts and the scary beings. You really don't see them much, but what we do see, the special effects were awesome. I definitely recommend this movie. The next one I watched was Centrigrade, and this released last year in 2020. It was directed by Brendan Walsh, and you can currently watch it on Hulu. This movie follows a husband and his pregnant wife that get snowed in and trapped in their car on the side of a lonely road somewhere in Norway. Completely buried from a night of ice and snow flurries, they struggle to survive long enough to be rescued. This movie, I don't know if maybe I rated it so high because when I watched it, it was in the middle of an ice storm here. So like I was really feeling the cold. I was very bundled up. My apartment has awful insulation, so when it's cold outside, I'm cold in here even with the heat going. So watching this with like all the lights off, it just made it more enjoyable. But I think that this was also a good example of like maybe not having a lot to work with, because the whole movie takes place in their car. There are only so many camera angles. There's only so much that you can do in a car. It was effective in building tension. How the husband and wife, like their dynamic kind of changes when they're both kind of going into like fight or flight mode or like panic mode. That was really cool to watch. And I've never been in a survival situation like this before, so I can't actually say if this is realistic or not, but the way that their acting met with like how they shot it, the situation, like living where I live, our winters aren't always bad, but there's a possibility that they could be bad. And there's always that like rule of thumb to like have a blanket, have like a bottle of water, have like a candy bar, whatever. Make sure you have stuff in your car for when this happens. I thought it was really good. I did give it a 3.5 stars out of 5. I would have given it, I feel like I would have gotten a higher rating, maybe like a full 4. But there was a scene kind of like after the middle part going into the final act where I don't want to give it away, but like this scene just didn't feel believable. And if I remember correctly, this is based on true events. And I have a feeling that this thing that happened that kind of like knocked it down a bit for me didn't happen, and they just kind of like made or added it to make the movie more interesting. So, but I'm not sure about that. It just felt out of place. It felt not realistic, and I didn't really dig it. So, but it ended great. I do recommend this movie. So this next one is also a Hulu, I think, original or whatever. It's called The Other Lamb from 2019. And I know I am going to mispronounce this director's name, so I'm so sorry. But it's directed by Malgorzata Zumovska. This movie is about a misguided cult of women led by their leader, Shepherd, who end up having to pack up and move through the wilderness to make home in a new area. Following a young girl who has just blossomed into womanhood, she discovers that her leader isn't as forgiving and loving as he has made them all to believe. I could tell that this movie wanted to be more than it was, and I mean like the setting, their clothing, down to like their behavior, like it could have been more. It just felt really bland, almost like they were playing, like the director or the writer was playing it safe. Like you could tell that like it like wanted to feel more occult-y or more like witchy, but it ended up being more like the leader of the cult, his name is Shepherd, or that's what they called him, and he looked like Jesus. So like it almost felt like a weird, hey, I'm Jesus and I look like Jesus and you girls should, you know, get with me. And it was just weird. Like, not necessarily weird, like you've seen cult movies like that before. I just feel like this didn't execute that idea super well, aesthetically wise. Like the acting was great, like the story was there, it's just like visually it needed a bit more. It needed to be a little bit more imaginative with the visuals. So, but that's just my opinion. Without giving a spoiler, there was one thing that I kind of wanted to mention, which was at the end of the movie, it kind of takes a turn, like vibe-wise. It almost gets there, and I just hope that, spoiler warning a little bit, that the girls at the end up going into the forest and creating like their own like coven of all women witch party cult thing, but doubtful. Whatever. I just hope that they live their best lives. Oh boy, this next one. This next movie on my list is Hellfest from 2018, directed by Gregory Plotkin. and you can currently stream this on Netflix. A group of friends spend Halloween night in a carnival decked out in spooky rides, creepy cast members, and haunted mazes. They all soon face a bloody night of terror when a masked serial killer stalks them and uses the carnival as his own personal playground. I have a lot to say about this movie, and it's not positive. I hold Halloween-themed media of any kind in high regard, and I expect a lot out of it. This movie did not live up to my expectation, and honestly, the idea was awesome, but it's like how they wrote the actors to play these characters. Man, they sucked ass. Like, specifically the short-haired, like, edgy girl character, I wanted to rip my eyes out. Like, she was so annoying. I hated every part that she was in. There's like a part where she like almost dies at the end, and I'm just like, fucking die, kill her. I know I'm being super judgmental, but like I said, like, it was a good idea. It was just poorly executed. You could tell that they were going for like a teen Scream movie, but it just wasn't there. The characters were too annoying. The dialogue wasn't believable. Like, there was no chemistry. Like, I didn't even believe that they were friends. It just felt like I was watching actors overly act these personalities that didn't fit in the movie. I gave it a 1.5 out of 5 stars. It gets 1 star for the like somewhat cool, like the carnival aesthetic was cool. The half star was the ending was kind of unique and I didn't see it coming, but it wasn't grandiose or like amazing or anything. It was just, I'm just glad it didn't end really bad, but the whole movie just like ruined itself for me. So this next one I'm probably going to be alone with my opinion on, which is fine. It's Ready or Not from 2019, and it's directed by Matt Bettinelli-Olphin and Tyler Gillette. And I have this on DVD. I had bought it last year. This movie follows a young woman who marries into an eccentric family that owns a board game and playing card company that has been around for decades. Their wedding night turns deadly when she is told to draw a card and pick the game that they all will play together, and it ends up being a hunt for her life. I, for some reason, didn't remember that this was like a horror comedy, so when the comedic elements came into play, I was just like, I don't like this. The humor, it wasn't funny to me. There's like a couple of parts where like, you know, it was entertaining, but I was expecting this movie to be serious. Like, the idea of like a Dangerous Game style with this old mansion, she's in like a wedding dress, it's very like stylized. I feel like, in my opinion, I would have liked it more if it was just a serious movie. The ending though, holy crap, I wasn't expecting, and it was awesome even with the humor. So like, what do I know? There were just too many characters that were like really pushing that like comedy button, and I didn't feel like all of them needed to try to be funny. Maybe like 1, maybe 2 could be like comedic relief. But yeah, I know I'm probably gonna be like the only person who thinks that. I even told myself to rewatch it knowing that it was gonna be kind of humorous. So hopefully like my rating would change in the future. But as it stands, I gave it a 3 out of 5, which I know is a little bit high. But like I said, the ending was really good. The story was great. The acting was superb. The actress who played the main girl, I don't know her name. I can't. I'll add it here. But all of that other stuff was great. Like, it lost 2 stars because it was more my fault that I didn't realize it was going to be a comedy, but still. The next movie I watched is another one on Hulu, and it's called Mary from 2019, and it's directed by Michael Goy. This movie follows Sea Captain David, who is looking for a way to guarantee a better life for his family and buys a ship because he believes it'll give them prosperity. But once they set sail, they discover that the ship holds terrifying secrets. This movie had so much potential. Like, it all takes place on this little boat, and it's like him, his wife, his 2 kids, and then there's like 2 guys who help kind of run the boat. I don't know how boats work. I'm assuming, you know, they take lots of people to get them to go and stuff. It jumped around a lot. it has that one kid from the It remake in it, and I was like, ooh, hey, this guy's in it, but it didn't fix it. The idea for the story, I think, would have worked better if they had, I don't know, like more special effects, more scares. It was a lot of just like shadows walking in the background kind of stuff. And after a while, like doing that like over and over in a movie, like it's not as effective. Like you need to kind of change up the scares a little bit. And the ending was dumb. Like super typical, like supernatural film with a ghost who's like sticking with something. Like this whole movie just, it started off kind of enjoyable, but then by the time it was over, I was glad it was over. Biggest issue I had with this movie was the special effects, like the makeup and stuff on the ghost, awful. Like, terrible. Didn't even look like a ghost, just looked like a lady with like a tattered dress. Like, anyway. The next one, get ready, is The Girl on the Third Floor from 2019 and directed by Travis Stevens. You can currently watch this on Netflix. The description's really short. It just, a man tries to renovate a dilapidated house for his growing family, only to learn that the house has other plans. This movie stars a WWE wrestler. I'm not sure if he's currently with WWE. I'm not really big into wrestling. The only company or any kind of wrestling I know is AEW. It stars CM Punk, and his acting, like, it was bad, but I feel like if he had, because like the whole movie follows, it's just him and his dog Cooper, and he talks to like the neighbor across the street sometimes, and he'll FaceTime his wife a couple of times, and then there's like a friend who comes to visit, and then there's like some slutty girl from around the neighborhood or whatever that comes around, but like for the most part, all of his dialogue is really like alone in the house. And I feel like if he had more opportunities to talk with people or like act with people on screen, he would have been able to, like, I don't know, act a little bit better. I know nothing about acting. I don't know if that's true or not. The only thing that he did that was like somewhat entertaining was like his facial expressions. If I can find a couple of clips, I'll add them here. But like the way he did his face, like it was kind of funny, or like you could tell he was trying to like act more with his face than like actually act. I don't know. It wasn't a great movie. It was really bad. Like it started promising, and like the idea was cool. And I've noticed that that's like the biggest thing with all of these movies that have like lower or not super great reviews for me, is that the idea for the movie or the story or the writing material was good. Probably sounded better on paper, but then they just didn't get a proper team together to execute it on film. But like, what do I know? And like the first like half of the movie makes sense, and like if it had just kind of ended, there's a part where you think it's ending, but then it goes on for like another like 15-ish, maybe 20 minutes. Like if they just left it there and made it end right there, I feel like I would have given it a higher rating, even with his bad acting. That final act was awful. It ruined the movie completely. I even contemplated turning it off. I thought about turning it off several times around the ending. So yeah, I do not recommend you waste your time with this movie. I gave it a 1.5 stars. It got a whole star because the interior of that house was beautiful. Whoever designed that house, you deserve a trophy, a medal, a tall glass of crisp Sprite, anything you want. Oh, and then 0.5 star for Cooper, just because like this is going to be a spoiler, but like Cooper was amazing. He felt like his own character. He's just a dog, a German Shepherd dog, but he dies in the movie in a very awful way. I can't handle animal death in movies or like them getting hurt, so yeah, Cooper, rest in peace. I give you a 0.5 star, but the rest of the movie's shit. This next one is the one that I got recommended to watch, and it's called Final Prayer. It's also known as The Borderlands, and it's from 2013, and it's directed by Elliot Goldberg. And I watched this on the free streaming site Tubi. After reports of strange phenomena in a rural English church, a team is sent by the Vatican to see if what is happening qualifies as a miracle. At first skeptical and mistrusted by the locals, they soon learn that they may have found something far darker and more potent than they could possibly have imagined. This is such... I feel like I've started all of these with saying, like, this is such a good whatever, but this is another, like, found footage, hand cam style movie, and it just worked. Like, this was such a good example of a film that maybe didn't have a lot of money for, like, props and, like, a big set and, like, filming locations, and, like, special effects and all that stuff, and, like, you could tell that they did the best with what they had, and they even kind of used the fact that they were, like, there trying to disprove things to their advantage, because, like, there's, like, a scene where, like, you can see something, like, falling off of a table. They watch the footage back, and it's like, oh, well, the tablecloth moved, or, oh, the table was vibrating from, like, a speaker or something, and maybe that's how they got it to move in the movie for the effect, but then they actually just, like, called it out in the movie as part of the plot. So it was really creative. I really loved the story content too. I don't want to give any spoilers to this because I think anyone watching should watch this if you haven't already. The ending I did not see coming at all. It had really effective jump scares, but not with, like, creatures or anything. Like, they did it with just kind of people coming on frame too fast, or sounds happening, or, like, the glitches with the technology that they had. The acting was really good too, like, surprisingly. Like, they were no-name actors, and they worked really well together. They executed the writing really well. The dialogue was decent. Very believable hand cam, found footage style movie, and I gave it 3.5 stars. The only reason why I didn't give it, like, a higher rating, like a 4 or anything, was because I really wanted to see, like, creatures or ghosts. I wanted to see, like, a big bad, and you get kind of close at, like, the very end, but you never really see anything. And I don't know, I just would have liked to have seen something, because I was anticipating it the entire time up until the end, and then when it didn't happen, I did feel a little disappointed. But, like, the rest of the movie, like, everything that I listed that was a positive really, like, sealed it in for me. So I do recommend that people watch this movie. The last movie I watched, I actually only watched, like, a few nights ago. It's Antebellum from 2020, and it's directed by Gerard Bush and Christopher Renz, and I watched this on Hulu. It follows the successful author Veronica Henley, who's finishing a book tour before she returns home to her husband and daughter, but a shocking turn of events is about to upend Veronica's existence, plunging her into a horrifying reality that forces her to confront her past, present, and future before it's too late. I really enjoyed the idea of this movie. The writing was spot on. The overall, like, looking at it from the top down at its, like, full value, the whole plot, the whole idea, I would have loved to see this exact same thing panned out a little bit differently. It went too fast, and it lacked the detail that it needed to kind of describe what was happening. There were, like, scenes that would happen that they wouldn't really go into descriptions, or, like, they wouldn't go into detail, and I felt kind of lost on, like, what was happening. And when the trailer first came out, it felt like the movie was going to be, like, a cerebral horror. For some reason, I thought, like, maybe she was being haunted by, like, her past life, or I don't know. Like, when you watch, like, the first release trailer for it, it's not at all what the movie actually ends up being. So, you know, I guess A+ for, you know, keeping me from predicting the whole movie, but what it ended up actually being was awesome. Like, a really unique idea for a horror movie. It was just not executed, I think, with the most potential. I don't know. It just needed a bit more focus on building up the details. And I would have really liked to have seen the movie just stay on one timeline. I think in some movies, jumping around back and forth works, and they could have done, like, start at the beginning, kind of build, go through what happens, and then maybe jump back to maybe show things that the main character missed that led to this situation happening. I don't know. I don't write movies. I just watch them. I can't really go into more detail than that without spoiling it. Just, it is worth a watch. Just, I don't know. It fell short of what it could have been. If the movie had just been a little bit longer, like if it had been like 2 hours or like 2 hours 20. I know that sounds long, but I mean, this movie had a really good vein of like historical detail. The characters were really well done. I will say there was one character that I felt was a little bit over the top that I didn't really enjoy watching, but you don't really see her for that long. But yeah, I would like to see something similar to this, like plot, in the future. Overall, I gave it a 2.5 stars out of 5. I would still recommend you watch it. I've seen a lot of bad reviews for this movie, but hopefully you'll watch it and make your own opinion. So, alright guys, that's all I watched this month. If you agreed with what I said about the movies, if you didn't agree, if you want to tell me how you felt about the movie, just leave it in a comment below. Let me know. I make these videos to get my thoughts out and to start discussions. And another big reason why I make these videos is hopefully to get more recommendations on movies to watch. I like talking about horror movies. I like watching them. I like hearing people's views on movies and maybe what they thought they meant, or, you know, just maybe how it impacted somebody. I would like to do a video like this at the end of every month. So if you have any recommendations for what I should watch for March, just let me know. Let me know down there. So yeah, if you want to like and subscribe, that would also be really great. But regardless, I hope everyone has a great day, and I'll catch you in the next video. Bye!